Hello and welcome, everyone. It's an unfamiliar face. Well, it's not unfamiliar, it's just craggy and horrible and rotten. Unfortunately, we are not joined by Robbie and by Ben. Robbie's in French France, doing French France things for a holiday. And I believe Ben is jiggling, or gigging. It's one of the two. So, here we are. Welcome to the show, episode 178. I've even got a script so I know what the hell I'm doing. It's Friday the 1st of September. Another month gone. Soon Santa will be visiting, which will be wonderful. So, welcome, one and all. Hope you had a good week. The weather forecast is for sun and heat just as school goes back next week. But the weekend's looking okay too, so I hope you managed to spend some time in the garden or doing whatever it is you do outside. Currently it's about 20 degrees in the UK, though we expect all of the summer dumped on us next week, with temps reaching 28 degrees centigrade. How will we cope? How will we cope? I've got my fan behind me, in case it gets warmer. There we go, my little fan. And so this week, unfortunately, as I said, Robbie and Ben aren't with us. You've got me, and you've got a couple of others who are going to be joining us shortly. But first, let's deal with some of the sort of housekeeping, etc. So let's start with, what shall we start with? Let's start with a banner. There we go. So do like, comment, subscribe and share. Please hit the thumbs up button if you like what we're doing. If you don't, you can hit the thumbs down button, but then the penguin of death will be visiting, just so you know. So hit the thumbs up, or you'll get visited. If you've got anything you want to contribute or say, on the show, then please do so on the YouTube chat. You can also contribute on the Twitch chat. Oh, look, and we've been joined by someone else here. Who is that? Who?
No idea.
Hello, Fruitbat.
Oh, muted, Andrew.
Not anymore. Not anymore. So, if you've got anything you want to say on Twitch, Facebook, but not on Twitter, and you can't cross-post between those different platforms, if you're watching us on Catch Up, hello, and thank you for joining us again. You can comment then in the comments section below. And we do watch those comments, and we, whatever you post, we like it a lot. So thank you very much. You can also subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and use the share button, which is great. You can use it to share with other friends and people who you think might be interested in the show, like Reg the Milkman. Reg is a very big fan of things like this. So what else do we have to do to cover off the housekeeping? If you want to make a donation somewhere here, as if by magic, please do. That's the PayPal. That's the PayPal donation button. It's not obligatory. It just helps us to keep the channel running. So there's the PayPal link, and it's in the description below. Or of course, you can use the YouTube Super Chat or Super Stickers. And if you want to follow us across all social media channels, we're across on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. There we go, YouTube, etc. And whilst we're doing the show, if you've got any questions you want to ask, pop them into the chat using a great big Q before it, and our lovely moderators will pick up on that as we're going through. I just want to mention the fabulous moderators again, who deserve a huge, great round of applause, but I don't have those sound effects. I'm just, I'm cheap as chips, me. And so, yay, right, there we go. And that's, I believe, Andy Synth Addict and Ben from Museums are taking care of that today. Andrew Brooks, God knows where he is. We don't know where he is. We just don't, except that you've seen him. So, as it's my first time running this side of things, forgive me if I've missed anything out or anyone out. And these guys will look after the chats and paste in all the links as we're chatting away. I think there may have been some donations, so I'm just going to have a quick look. Is that right, gentlemen? Yes, we've got one in from 2X Zorb, $4.99. Thank you very much. Great stuff, and thank you for your wishes of good luck. I think we're all going to need it if I'm running things. And we've also got a, as ever, wonderful donation from the glorious Aussie Bastard. Stephen Smith. Stephen, thank you so much, mate. You're a stout supporter of everything we do, and that's worth almost 17 pence in the UK. So much appreciated. So enough of all this falafery. I think it's time to sort of introduce and get rid of some of these banners. Where are we? Question. There we go. We're back to normal. So time to bring in some of the other wonderful people we have here today. And first of all, where would we be without the wonderful Kent Spong, who's here somewhere, I believe. No. Well, that's Andrew. I can't seem to find a Kent. Do you know what? I'm just going to bring us all in. So there's Kent.
Hey.
We have Andy Brooke. There you are, Andy.
Hello, everyone.
And some bloke called David. How are you, David?
Hello, David.
I think it's about time. Nice to see you. See you next week.
Bye. That was the show. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.
We could just do a show full of credits and thanks, and then that's it. Yeah.
Well, that is actually the plan.
Sort of it, really,
that's the golden plan for today. So let's just do a quick round. Kent, how are you today? What's your day been like?
I've been working on an Odyssey, and that's all I'm going to say about it.
Was it a pleasant experience?
No. Move on.
I believe that recently you've been working with a certain Mr. Brooks on a Roland W30. Is that right? Was that wonderful?
No, you can also move on that one and all.
Mr. Brooks,
I think it's going very well so far.
Absolutely brilliant.
It's flowing,
This is what everyone tunes in for.
smooth as silk. It is.
This is gold.
Well,
ask me what I've been doing.
Go on, what you've been doing? God's
Yes.
sake, what have you been doing?
Can't
What
talk
you up to?
about it. Move on. Can't
Oh,
talk about it.
all right.
Been working on an ARP Odyssey. I haven't.
And how did that go?
Not very well.
It went meow.
Oh, it's working then. That's all right.
There we go.
That's the result.
So, Andrew, how are you? How's your week been?
I've had a nice week. I've been up and down the motorway, the M1 to Kent. Last Saturday, Neil Wharton and I went down to Kent, took some gear, and then yesterday...
When you say Kent, I mean Kent the place or Kent the person?
I went to Surrey to Kent. I went to Kent in Surrey because most people don't know that Kent is in Surrey. They just get confused otherwise. So I went to Kent in Surrey, and I had a long drive yesterday because obviously I live in Sheffield, so I drove all the way down, drove all the way back again. Well, I had a lovely day. I had a lovely day. It was a real privilege to sit and actually watch Kent working and doing. I was just sitting there watching it to see as we move from one frustration to the next frustration to the next frustration. I think that thing was dismantled and put back together at least 3 times before. And how many screws are always left over, Kent?
2.
Yeah, how many did we have left over?
2.
Exactly.
Well, this is riveting stuff, I've got to say. I'm sure everyone watching is just, I can see them. Oh.
I've got a Pro 1 back to full health and a W30 almost back to full health.
There we go.
Very, very lovely.
Let's come round to the lovely David. David, how are you? How's your week been?
It has been slightly damp. I've been working on a commission for the Albert Hall for their Christmas concerts. They've, I don't know if you've ever been, but every year they do a series of Christmas concerts, which they manage themselves, put together themselves. And I think there's 21 of them over about an 8-day period, 9-day period. So it's like 2 or 3 shows a day. And it is full of, all the great Christmas songs and Christmas carols. And they've got like a 100-piece choir and a big concert orchestra. And it's, it's just wonderful. And the place, looks like inside of a Christmas present anyway. So it's got a huge advantage on every other venue in the world. Is that as soon as you walk in the door, it feels like you are part of something special. And they traditionally been starting with a piece that I suppose is, you could sort of say, was like a cavalcade of carols. One of those things. A bit like
Oh no!
And is there a pause in the middle of this cavalcade? We'll try and get David. There we go. He's coming back in by the look of it. There you are. You paused there. No, he's gone again.
No, there we go.
You're back. Excellent. But we're not hearing you.
Laptop.
There we go.
Again, hammer.
Yeah. No. Not hearing anything yet. Gents?
No.
Okay, why are we not hearing anything? Let's try muting and unmuting from here. That hasn't done anything? No?
No.
You may want to try logging back in again or running for the hills. It's one or the other. But I do want to talk to you about the Christmas concerts. Because the Albert Hall particularly has been getting an awful lot of publicity in the last few months, certainly probably the last year, with the rise of...
What did it say?
Shall I re-enter? I think that's probably a really good idea. Yeah, let's try that, David, whilst we're waiting for other things. So, the Albert Hall's been becoming ever more at the forefront of people's minds through the, some would say, meteoric rise of Anna Lapwood, the organist, who is an organist at one of the colleges at Cambridge. David Arnold's coming back in. Here we go.
Story of my life.
There you go. So I was just talking about how the Albert Hall's been getting more and more coverage this year, particularly in the last few months, with the advent of the that meteoric rise of Anna Lapwood. So they've been doing a lot of stuff in there. It's been being seen all over the place. So although we know that the Albert Hall is a marvellous place, and I've always loved it, but it's been getting a lot more attention of late, partly due to her, I think. Is that something? Have you heard any of her stuff? Are you aware of her at all?
Oh yeah, no. I met Anna. We did a radio show about a year and a half ago, which was my first exposure to her. I mean, she's extraordinarily knowledgeable about music, but I mean, she's the most amazing performer. The good thing about it is that she's really young and she's playing an instrument that hardly anyone knows about, really, of her age. So through her socials and everything, all of a sudden, like the Albert Hall organ is a very, very cool thing. And no, she's. I think she's wonderful because she knows what's going on in the world outside of the sort of classical world, and is a sort of great spokesperson for the artistry of the organ, the catalogue of the organ, program of the organ, and also the sheer size, weight, wealth, and power of it. And that she can turn her hand to almost anything. So I'm a big fan of Anna. I think she's fantastic. But also, I know she's recently left, but like Lucy Noble, who was sort of running it from the creative and booking side, did put some much more interesting stuff in. Over the last sort of 10 years, I think their programming has been really interesting, and the proms have adapted and adopted different things that make it more interesting for people who aren't necessarily entirely into the sort of classical world, but alongside it they get introduced to it as well. I mean, I had a piece in the proms last Wednesday, which was a kind of fully orchestral version of the like Good Omens theme, because they had a fantasy on a proms on fantasy and legend. So it's there's like Game of Thrones and other bits and pieces as well. So these kind of thematic things, alongside some classical pieces in it, are introducing classical music and orchestral music to new audiences, which I think you have to do. You have to change, you have to adapt, you have to understand that things aren't always going to be the same. And when you are the gatekeeper of the old, it's sometimes difficult to let go of it in order to let new stuff come in. But I think that's where Anna's kind of like key. In that, people like her, and they've got artists in residence who are in the community, and younger people more sort of vibrant people who bring stuff to the hall as well. So I mean, it's you know, probably my favourite.
I think it's fascinating that, I mean, Anna's got a lot of publicity, but I think an awful lot of, as well, on top of, people like Anna. I think what you've been doing with Bond and other people have been doing, the Albert Horso Hands and various others, translating what is now popular idiom music into, with a huge classical setting and presenting it to an audience in a way that is much more contemporary, introduces a whole world of music to a whole new audience, and I think that's got to be great, hasn't it?
I think it is. I mean, the fact, I was saying before I got, technology cut me off a few minutes ago, that the invitation for someone like me to write a piece of choral and orchestral music for the Albert Hall's Christmas concert, to open it up. To open the show with a piece which is about Christmas, rather than like a kind of Stars on 45 with carols, is I think they have some faith in me for some reason, but I'm not a classical composer. I don't write classical music. I use an orchestra for an element of what I do, quite a big element of what I do, but I'm not exclusively orchestral. And
so for these concerts, would you have been? I'm assuming you'd have been using libraries, your own, your electronic instruments to pull the thing together, or computers to use libraries of orchestra. How would that have worked?
For writing.
Yeah.
In order to play, what's quite refreshing about this is that no one is demanding a demo of a full classical choral piece, which is, it is easier to do than it was with samples and, choirs, especially when you have specific lyrics and specific words, it's still difficult to do convincingly, if at all. You can do vague, Latin sounding things, chants and stuff like that quite easily, but when you're trying to have a, performed piece where it's sung through with a lyric with words, then it's not quite as easy to make that work. So they're asking me to deliver it, but they're not asking me to do a fully fledged demo of the whole thing, because that would take a lot longer. So I'm kind of halfway between sketching it in Logic actually, and then getting stuff down on paper and doing it from there, because it is what I've kind of come up with is, I think it's technically a song, but it is complicated with choral and orchestral decoration, so shall we say. But it's the sort that you could kind of play at the piano and sing it, sort of, if you could split your voice into three things. But I could give you the thrust of it. It's got a tune.
Yeah, I got a kick like that once. Oh,
yeah.
I know, Ken, you're very fond of a lot of the orchestral libraries as well. I think you're particularly fond of the Abbey Road stuff, aren't you? Was it the Abbey Road stuff, or is it the Maida Vale?
No, I'm a huge fan of the Spitfire BBC Orchestra, and Albion and stuff like that, down that neck of the woods. Some of the 8DO stuff, but most of the time I'm just trying to keep up with Ty, and I can't do it. I haven't got his bank account, and it's so. I mean, any of those ones, and it gives me a chance to sort of like have a rough idea of anything that I write sound vaguely like it would, if it was actually presented to an orchestra, if they could read the music, that is. And so that's, I like them all, really.
So, I mean, for you, and I imagine for David and for myself, I'll come to you in a moment, Andrew, as well, because I think for all of us, there's that thing of maybe working with synths, and I think we've all kind of texturally looked towards orchestral sounds and as we've gone through the various different things, and then having access to those sounds, the stringy sounds and whatever, having those is great. But there's a real confluence between the two different disciplines. How do you How do you find that? Because you've got the 80 there, you've got the Hydra synth, and all of that is about the polyphonic aftertouch, and it's the articulation. How do you find that when you move on to string library? In fact, actually, David, for you, how do you find that moving on to composing with the kinds of libraries you use? Are you using anything like MPE controllers or whatever?
I tell you what I've recently been converted to, which has made quite a big difference. Is I've been using a lot of Spitfire string libraries, but I've been putting SWAM stuff on top of it, and that's really helping, especially with brass, for articulations and personality. I mean, I was doing a Bond thing, unsurprisingly, for a show recently, where I really, difficult to get filthy trumpet going wow wow wow, on a song. I played it, so we got the SWAM stuff up, and was able to get that articulation pretty accurately, and that, two of those laid on top of a sort of 2-3 piece trumpet sample sounded amazing. So I'm thinking that probably in 5 years' time, I don't know if we're going to be talking about sample libraries anymore. My inkling is that they have the articulation stuff and the playability characteristics of it almost 100% down. The only thing missing for me is the quality of the actual instrument itself, the sound itself, and that's not that far off. It's far enough off to make you go like, no, not really, but it's not that far off. And I think in a couple of years' time,
we were talking about this last week before you paused, before your phone dropped out again.
And you've muted.
Yeah, but I'm a git. Would you be using Roly or SWAM or MPE yourself on any of your? So just to catch you up, David, Andy does a lot of EMOMs, a lot of live performances with all the gear you're seeing there, and a whole heap of other stuff as well. I was just asking whether or not MPE would form part of what he's going to be doing and taking forward as well.
I've not got into that area at all. In fact, a lot of the stuff that's computer based, I'm decades behind. Remember what I told you? My cousin called me.
The fossil.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, it's just. I mean, for me, the computer is something I set to record, and it records a stereo stream from here. Any deeper than that, I don't go. When I'm doing more complicated recording stuff, I go around to my mate Grace's, and she's much more talented and capable of that. The thing about orchestral scoring and that sort of thing has been in the back of my head for a long time, and I really ought to do something about it. I mean, the very first time I came on Pro Synth Network, this was a topic we talked about then, and I showed a handwritten score, which I'd done when I was 13 years old, a piano concerto. I composed a piano concerto and scored it all out by hand on manuscript paper. The whole, about 64 pages of this thing. It took me ages and ages. What a lunatic thing to do. It's probably rubbish, but that idea of scoring and orchestration's always been a bit of a fantasy. And when MIDI first came out and synths were capable of being multi-timbral and doing that sort of thing, that, of course, I ended up going into sort of electronic music and techno and all that sort of realm as well, and sort of distanced myself from the classical background which I grew up with, and I really could do with digging myself back into it. But I would realise very quickly that I'm actually not very talented in that area, but we'll have to find out. So I mean, obviously this is a different sphere altogether, but
Well, I think
maybe one day.
One of the things which looks like it's going to be happening more and more is physical modelling is going to be moved into hardware as well, and the whole thing that Roland started with the Zen platform, and it looks like we think Yamaha are probably moving that way as well, means that you don't necessarily need to have a computer, and it's being able to have access to that level of articulation to be able to play and really try. It's a whole new learning curve. I mean, it's not easy to play some of these things. The Roly particularly can be extremely challenging, but it's an interesting area. Ken, what about for you? You've got a Rolly, haven't you? You've got
Three.
You've got 3 Rollies.
I've got the Grand and 2 Rises, 1 and 2. Yeah. Yeah, I like playing music via sex toys. It's just the thing to do, isn't it? I mean, the thing is, it's limited because there's only certain amounts of software you can get really true control while using a Rolly. The Osmos again gives you another set of controls that you can use, but I'm not particularly impressed with the sound engine inside the Osmos, but it's good for playing other things. When I thought, the day I thought the sample libraries might have come to an end was when I downloaded Behringer physically modelled violin, and it blew me away. I mean, for a solo violin, because even in a lot of libraries, other than very, very expensive ones, the solo violin is the one thing that will really show up whether the sample library is shit or not.
It's usually the weakest, isn't it?
Yeah, and the Behringer physical modelled one is like, holy crap. Of course, the Rolly doesn't talk to it correctly, so so it's always trade-offs, But
so, do you think we should get a collection together? Because I've got a few bits and pieces lying around here, and you have there, Kent, and you have there, Andy. Because David's looking like someone's broken into his gaff and nicked all the gear. What's happened, Dave? What's going on?
Oh,
the cleaners.
I'm not at my regular room is at Air Studios. I'm not there at the moment. So,
Lyndhurst.
Yeah, I have a room there. I have most of my stuff in there. I think I got very sparsely down here because I try and keep it simple. I'm in another place. And I've only got a couple of little keyboards down here, but most of the time I just use it for writing. It looks a bit posh, but actually it's not. It's just an old shed that bloke lives around.
It's a very posh shed.
Yeah, no, it's a nice. It looks lovely, doesn't it? The bloke did a brilliant job.
Yeah.
But yeah, be surprised that it's. I'll see if I can get the name and number of the guy who does. He does basically. I mean, I'm surprised how cheap it was to get all this, done. But basically, it was a shed, and I just put like some plasterboard up, and then had this interior done. It's all sort of.
It sounds great. We're not hearing any reflections at all. It sounds really good.
No, he did a really good job, and it was. I mean, it's in West Sussex, so in the middle of nowhere. So I'm actually running all this stuff from a Wi-Fi from Elon Musk Starlink thing.
Oh, really?
Because the BT line was 3 meg download and 0.6 upload, and the Starlink is around about 100, and you can get up to 100, but it's usually around the 40 or 50, which is enough to be working with. But in the middle of nowhere, it's an amazing little bit of kit.
We've been using it a bit. I've also got a video production company, Video Studios, so we use it on location. We started to use Starlink more and more because you can take a mobile version with you to pretty much anywhere, and you're going to get a decent upload. So
it took me a while to get it, and then they found out it says, it'll be a little bit later because we just put in 12,000 extra satellites in the air. So it's going to start getting better in a few months. And it did. It's better than certainly it's better than any landline I've had down here, by a very, very long way.
So, talking of such things, and how much time do you have, David?
What now?
Today on this here show.
I'm with you for another half hour, if that's all right.
Oh God!
If I don't know.
You said he wouldn't be here that long, Ken. You said.
I don't know if you want to.
You're not going to pitch that musical to him, are you?
Yeah,
you can ask.
I was. Well, no, because I'm.
Don't take it, Dave. Don't take it, mate. It's not even a locked picture. All right, just run away right now.
I used the Ferguson video star for my first locked a picture many years ago.
Yeah, we don't call it locked. We call it latched.
But that's because you're in West Sussex, though. You know,
it's never really locked. It's we only figure that it's locked when it goes into the cinema, but even then, it comes back and they say we want to change it for, you know, a certain market or a DVD or.
Yeah.
So sometimes you find yourself going and doing things again that you've done a few years ago. But yeah, I mean that's all part of the fun and games.
and how so? Let's keep on this track because I'm quite liking this. So I know we've got news. We'll come to the news in the second half of the show, I think, gents, if that's all right with you. With
Right.
your synth collection, so you're working mostly off computer now, right?
Yep.
So almost entirely off of Mac, I would imagine, if you're using Logic.
Yes.
Do you use any? I mean, do you have any hardware synths that you still have and like to use? And is there a particular reason? What's the?
Yeah, I've still got quite a lot of them. A few rack mount things I got rid of because I wasn't really using. They were more the modern ones, which having much fun with. But I've got a few weird old Crewmar things. I can't quite remember the names, and I've got the CS80 is the big one, of course.
And you're still using that?
Just used that on where I use it. Oh, actually, I used it on Good Omens too. And I'm doing some weirdly. I know everyone says it. I'm doing some of my own stuff for a change because I've never really done it before. And it's getting a look in on that. I've got an old Mellotron. I've got an Odyssey. And yeah, some weird old Italian ones, but I can't even remember what they do. But the filters are amazing. What else we got? Kent serviced them all. The Moog, the Mini Moog, the Poly Moog. What's the Italian one? I'm terrible with names. I just switch them. Yeah, Elka. Yeah, Elka Synthex.
Elka. Oh, the Synthex.
And ARP Quadra.
Hmm.
It's funny though because they are very particular. They're very particular, and the idea we were talking earlier about, you know, orchestral work or film work where it's orchestral and synthetic. I think you have to look at each sound source as something a bit like an ingredient in a recipe. You know, it's going to affect how everything is, and you've got to find the right place for it. I think if you're considering doing an electronic score with orchestra, then I think you should think about the orchestra and the electronics as being the same thing. Not like we're going to do something electronic and we're going to stick an orchestra on top of it. You know, like we're trying to find a space for the orchestra to be to make it sound posh or something. It's like if you're considering the overall sonic world that you are creating, if it is a hybrid, a proper hybrid, then I think the conception of the music should be considering each of those elements as part of a whole, rather than we are going to build in the electronic world and then we're going to add orchestra to it. You know, I think you're much more successful when it's like that, and I think the people that do that well, obviously, you know, do a very good job of it. I find it's less successful when there is someone who's entirely to do with electronics and then someone entirely to do with orchestra, and just sort of sandwich them together. And what happens is that one sort of sits sometimes harmoniously, but sometimes less happily.
Less so. Yeah, you can't. You get
there are odds with each other.
Yeah, there are odds with each other.
If you're writing music, you think like, well, here is a line, here is a through line, here is whatever the rhythmic aspect of it is, whatever counterpoint things are going to be. If that is an electronic sound that is doing that, and we want orchestra to be a part of it, then you have to work around that sound. You know, it's the same. In a way, it's the same as like making a record with a voice. You know, the voice has to be kind of front and center and the sort of star of the show for the, you know, when it's a song, I think. And so you have to find ways of supporting that. And if you've got something which is an idiosyncratic sound that you don't want to feel is like sort of lonely, floating around, as wonderful as it might be, but you know, somehow an orphan in a world of orchestra. You know, you should be considering that as part of your orchestral palette. Think of the orchestra as part of your electronic palette. You know, if you're thinking about what sound could that be, could it be cello rather than a sort of monosynth or something, or the other way around?
So one
for me,
thing,
but as an organic way of looking at it, a holistic way of looking at it. You know, and I think interesting that Andy was saying that, you know, he wouldn't be any good at it. But I mean, if you can hear music if you can hear music in your head, and you can hear music in your head enough to be able to get it in your fingers that you can play a keyboard and get notes on it, you know, then the step from that to making it playable by other players isn't that big a leap. You know, you just have to have it clear in your head what it is that you're asking them to do. And if you've got a piece which has got a line, go, that would sound really lovely if it was on, you know, like, you know, 12 violins or something, and double it up with an oboe or a clarinet. You know, it's, you know, it doesn't take that long to write that down. And if you struggle with that aspect of it, there are plenty of people who can help. You know, just put it in front of a violin player and saying, like, what's that like? Can you play that? You know, and they're very happy to say this is what would be better to do, or no, that's perfect.
I think
it's intimidating. It's intimidating because there's a lot of kind of skills and language, which it takes a lifetime to sort of master it, really. And if you're honest with your approach to it, and you don't pretend to be expert, you know, you'll find that classical musicians are extraordinarily helpful because they want it to be as good as it can be, and so do you. And I think asking people for help and understanding of something, and you will come to a place, you know, and you will have a piece that is eminently playable, and you know, it's not a big, massive mystery. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it feels like it's a massive thing. It's like, oh my God. Like, people say to me a lot of the time, it must feel amazing when you hear your work played by an orchestra. And I always think, like, the main thing that I feel is relief, because in my head I've heard it. So what I'm trying to achieve with a recording or a performance is getting it close to what I've heard in my head. And if we do that, it's not a surprise. It's not a surprise when I hear it the way I'd like to hear it. You know, it's like, okay, that's the way it's meant to be. It reminds me of that.
I think the first time. Go on, sorry.
Sorry, no, I was just going to say, it makes me laugh. But you know, like in MasterChef, when you know, they bring the, I think Limmy was saying this, it's that you bring your plate of food up to the judges and put it down in front of them, and they'll say, oh, you've got butternut squash in there, you get the heat of chili, you know, you've got ginger in the background, you know, you've got this freshness of the coriander, you know, and the bloke's sitting there thinking, I just made it, I know what's in it. You know, it's like he's not surprised that it is what it is, and that it's got in it what it's got in it. But like, if you're writing a piece of orchestral music and you've heard it in your head and you hear it realised properly, I don't think you'd be surprised. You know,
I think one of the
Relief.
interesting things with classical music and people's fear around deigning to get involved with it is twofold. One is, if you haven't been to see a classical concert, you don't understand how the air moves. You get a huge amount of air moving around from a big orchestral a big orchestra. It's astonishing. You get so much air moving around. So if you've not done anything for orchestra before, and the first time you hear a composition of yours by an orchestra or by a string section or whatever, if that's the first time you've heard real strings properly playing these things, it is a shock.
Oh,
you kind of go,
first time ever is something else. It's like first time taking off in an aeroplane, or first time being at a football match. You know, first time it's like, oh my God. You know, 20th time it's like, thank God.
Thank God. Yeah.
Well, I've got two questions, seeing as Andrew's muted himself again. Sorry, it's nothing. Yeah, Dave.
Probably on grounds of good taste,
right.
Andrew.
Robbie, the co-owner of this show, has a question for you, and it's very pressing. It's how do you feel about Luton Town making it to the Premier League?
I'm not a big follower of football, but I appreciate what it means for the town, and I appreciate it's been an extraordinary result, I think, for them. What I loved about Kenilworth Road is that when I was younger and they had the plastic pitch in the 80s, they used to rent it out to like sides to go and play on if you wanted on a Sunday. And so I've played on that pitch when it was a plastic pitch, and I can't play football. So I say I played. I was on the pitch with a ball, with a team for a couple of hours, and they let you use the changing rooms and everything. You know, it's an amazing thing. Kenilworth Road is like quite a small ground, certainly by Premiership standards, it's tiny. And, you know, the entrance to it is in a road with, you know, adjacent to terraced houses. You know, there's not a great big run-up walkway to it. It's just you go up Oak Road, and there's like number 2, 4, 6, 8, 12, 10, entrance to Luton, 14, 6. You know, it's like it's nothing grandiose. But, you know, it's a tiny place. But, I mean, I think it's an incredible achievement. What they've managed in the years, and I've still got the last time they were in Division 1 with the old Division 1, the Barron Knights released a double A-side single in support of the team. The A-side was called Hatters and the B was We Are Luton Town You Know, and I've still got it, 7-inch record. And there was a very optimistic cry at the end of verse 2. One of the Barron Knights shouted, "Never again, Division 2." And then the next season they were down. But you know, now they're back up again. My thinking with Luton is that all they've got to do is be better than 3 other teams. That's all. You don't have to be as good as the got to do to stay there is be better than 3 other teams. That's all you got to do. So, you know, I mean, I think it's amazing. You know, it's like whenever anything big like that happens to a place that gets a bad rep like Luton does, you know, it's good. It's good for everyone.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm more of a rugby man myself. But yeah, the other question is, where can I buy a life-size cutout of you to go next to Hans?
I've got one, and you can have it.
Yeah. Brilliant.
I have to say that I am, apart from the hat, naked.
That's fine.
That works.
That'll keep Fiona happy.
That works. I'm turning.
That's win-win, mate.
I'm not necessarily saying it's my torso, but
okay.
No, we did a show. I did a show with Michael Giacchino at the Albert Hall, where it was a me versus him a couple of years ago, and where I would have stuff from my catalogue and he would have stuff from his catalogue, and we were kind of like, you know, positioning it like it was a grudge match, you know. And so at the start of the show, before we came out, we just had a spotlight on the stage, on the centre of the stage, and I'd made a sort of photoshopped both of us kind of like in a sort of pugilistic pose, with our faces on the bodies of people that had obviously spent a long time in a gym. And anyway, we finished that night. That was it. That was all it was used for. And I was leaving, and they were in a skit. Someone had thrown them out, and Lucy Noble, who now works at AEG, used to run the Albert Hall, said, "Do you want these?" It'd be a shame to throw them out. So she had them in her office, and they were there for a year. And then said, "Would you please come and get them?" Anyway, so then I brought them back to my house, and I used to leave them around the house in rooms where sometimes someone would open the door and there'd be a basically naked Michael Giacchino standing in front of you, and so plenty of shock horror stuff. But I think, you know what? Weirdly, I was thinking about it the other day. I got no idea what to do with them. But if you want one, you're very welcome.
Yeah, I'll have one, mate. Yeah, I'll have one.
I've got one of Michael as well. I mean, maybe I should ask him what he wants to do with his. But you know, you can have mine with pleasure.
All right, mate. Thank you. I'd love to start a collection of just completely naked film composers.
You could have mine, but you'd need a much wider wall.
Yeah. Well, to be honest with you, both John Barry and who was the other one? Morricone. They're not returning my emails.
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, apart from Danny Elfman, I don't think you want to see any of them with their shirts off. To be honest, he's put the.
Why are you what?
Yeah. Then I'll have to do one of me as well, won't I? God dear.
Be a very different podcast.
Oh, wouldn't it? Yeah. And people would suddenly want to go out and get Tagliatelle for some reason. You know, it wouldn't be pleasant. No.
So
Andrew, that was sponge pudding.
Are you going to be doing anything about your desire perhaps to start looking at classical or orchestral music with what you've heard today? I think you should.
I think it will depend on getting the DAW side of this computer here up and running, and then experimenting with it. And perhaps it may well be actually. Okay, right. Here's the challenge. Then if I throw down a challenge now, can I give myself till Christmas?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go myself till Christmas, and I will work out. I will use that to work out how to use a DAW of my choice and produce a classically inspired piece of music and use that as a means of learning how to use the bloody DAW. Oh my God, what have I just said? I've just said that live on air.
I'm interested in like what classically inspired means to you, because a lot of the time people listen to film music and call it classical music just because it's orchestral.
Exactly.
I mean, it
so
doesn't
the
have
lines
to be
are blurred. I mean, when I did that piano concerto, when I was 13, the two obvious influences on that were Grieg and Schumann, the A minor piano concertos, and how they opened, and there the opening is where it starts, and nothing else. So it was definitely, I was in a classical frame of mind at that point, or classical romantic. I don't know. I think it would just be a case of try and find out. I mean, I've got really quite interested in minimalist classical music. Steve Reich, Philip Glass, John Adams, that sort of thing, and that systems music, that sort of thing. Well, whether that is a next level, I don't know if I could go with that, because that's very mathematical and precise.
I would suggest that you don't try and be like anyone, or try and do what anyone else
just do
does.
your own.
I mean, I think just do whatever you feel like it should follow the next note. Because I think the problem is, a lot of people think like, I better make it sound like, like the orchestral music that I've heard. And what would be the most exciting thing is for you to write orchestral music that no one's heard. And it's only if you think that the idea, the idea of using orchestra is inherently a part of your creative process, and not just for the sake of it, because it's it's like sometimes it's a bit of a challenge. You think it's a bit of a challenge, but also writing an amazing piece of music on the stuff that you've got is also a challenge. So maybe the idea should be with the intent of writing something properly meaningful and personal to you, like deeply personal, and then you just think of whatever tonal color palette that you need to achieve that, and don't restrict yourself necessarily to what you got in front of you. But I wouldn't be led by the medium. I wouldn't be led by the elements that you have available to you. I would be led by the emotional drive of the music. Make that the first thing, because without that, whatever you have to add or play it on is meaning. I think you need.
That's sound advice. That.
Here's the thing: you've already got a toolkit of stuff. Most of us work by becoming familiar with a toolkit of sounds, a sonic arsenal. Some of us have so many we can't move, and others of us sort of hone it down and almost deliberately limit ourselves in some ways and learn some things really well. You've got all of that stuff that you know well. I'd be really interested to hear how you would blend that with orchestral sounds and textures as well, because I think that would be more, you're already familiar with that, so your ability to conjure up stuff really quickly on that and sit it comfortably with orchestral instrumentation would be really good. I'd like to hear that, Andrew. I really would.
Right, I've thrown down a gauntlet for myself there, haven't I? So, right.
Good.
I've got a piece of hardware you might like, so we'll have a chat about that afterwards. I'll wing something up to you.
Oh, exciting!
You're the only reason why that wouldn't happen, Andrew.
That is a truth. You cannot gainsay that one, can you? That is properly true. So if it's going to happen, the only person that can make it happen is me, and therefore I've got to get off my arse and do something about it.
Yes.
Again.
And it's hard work. It's hard.
I'm sure it will be.
I'll join you.
Right. Okay. Well, joint co-challenge then, Kent. With
Yeah,
Music
I'll join
Christmas.
you, mate. Yeah, because I keep buying the stuff and then going, yeah, I'll get round to it. Yeah, I'll get round to it.
It's
Right.
funny. I used to work in a shop that sold gear. Well, it wasn't a shop. It was a place called Thatch Cottage Audio in Royston back in the 80s. And Dave, who used to run the place, used to let me use the studio to do my, student films. If I spent 2 or 3 days a week demonstrating and selling gear for him, and
Yeah.
there were some people who came in there, all very nice, who would say, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to make a record, I want to do this, I want to do this, but I need that. I need that. I need that thing before I can do it. So you talk to them a bit, and then you would sell them the thing that they said they wanted, and they'd come back in 3 months' time. And I said, "How's your project going?" He goes, "Yeah, but really, I need that thing. I can't really do it because now I need that or that mic or that bit of output, And for years, they be coming back. And it's like, it's understandable because if it's always in the next room, you never really have to deal with it.
But it's always something else's fault. It's not your fault if you don't do something because you're always waiting for. So you can always blame it on something else. You don't have to take responsibility and actually get down and do it.
But everyone knows whose fault it is, and it's very procrastination. It's like I'm the king of it. It's like I'm terrible at starting. I will do anything. I know when I have to start when every last pencil is sharpened. And when there's nothing else to tidy up and line up, then I know I've got to start. But otherwise, it's like I'm just looking for something else because the process is difficult. It's difficult because not only are you doing it, you're your own worst enemy and your own, fiercest critic. There's actually other people standing behind you, 20 of them lining up to have a go as well. Everyone's got an opinion. Everyone wants to know what it is that you're doing. Everyone's got an idea about what it is that you're doing. Will have something to say about what it is that you're doing. And it's like being back at school in a way. It's quite a primal thing about, people judging you for something which is so intimate in a way. It's not a pleasant thing to do. And as we get older, we like things to be more pleasant and a bit easier. And we think like, I don't have to deal with that anymore. But you do. That's why when it works, it's amazing.
Do you suffer from? I mean, it's I guess less so now as I've got older, but it certainly used to be the case that for me, if I was writing or composing, one of the biggest bars to my actually getting on and doing something was the fear of what if this time it doesn't come. What if this time? And sometimes you just got to catch yourself by surprise and go, I'm not going to do anything, but I might just do this, and suddenly the flow state's there, you're in it, and you can get on. But there's that fear thing of what if this time.
Well,
does that happen for you?
My favorite quote regarding that, it might have been Irving Berlin, it might not have done, is inspiration is for amateurs.
I've got a good one on that.
If you think of those people who went into the building, like every day and wrote a song a day. I listened to a podcast with Desmond Child, the songwriter.
Yeah.
Wrote, Living on a Prayer and just tons of hits, and he said, I've written 4,000 songs, of which 40 of those were recorded. Of those 40, 18 made it to records, and of those 18, 5 of them were number one. But I had to write 4,000
to get the 5 number ones.
To get 5 number ones, So, it's like you just have to go in and do the work. And if you look at, you look at the Let It Be thing, the Beatles doing that film. They're not thinking about how fucking great it is. They're just coming in with ideas. They're just making stuff. They made they said in 3 weeks' time we're going to have made. We're going to have written a whole new load of music which we're going to perform in front of people in 3 weeks' time.
You can do it. I've got a good inspiration quote actually. It's Tchaikovsky, and I've had it printed out and put on a sort of A3 poster which I have in my. I'm a school teacher, so I have it on my classroom. It's on the wall in my classroom, and it says, "Inspiration is a guest which unwillingly visits the lazy." And I just thought, that
Yeah.
says it all, really. And
Yeah,
what it
yeah,
means
yeah.
is the harder you work at something, the easier it gets.
Yeah.
Is the
I mean,
bottom
I don't think
line.
it's ever, you know, it's like I struggle every time I start a project with how am I going to do it? What's it going to
Yeah.
be? But that is, you know, the process. And I know myself well enough to know that the process is going to be uncomfortable and it's going to be unpleasant. And I'm going to think I'm hopeless. I'm going to think I'm useless. And I know there's plenty of people who would agree. But, you know, and there's plenty of times, like 2 or 3.
Oh no.
I mean, I know it's getting close to 8 o'clock, but
Mid sentence. Right, that's it.
but
The meter's run out.
the meter, yeah.
Oh bless. Well, we've
It's
certainly
Elon
chucked
Musk.
ourselves.
Oh,
It's Elon Musk. Sorry, David. Go on.
That's all right. No, yeah. I mean, it's like I'm surprised when anything good happens if I do it, and when it does, I'm never sure that it's anything to do with me either.
That,
Andrew.
mute yourself, mate.
there we go. We're back again. So sometimes, I think often when composing, you certainly I find this live particularly, but when I'm in the middle of composing, I sometimes look down at what I'm playing and go, where's that come from? It's like I'm not involved. It's just appearing and happening, and it's kind of, where did that come from? Where did that particular thing come from? It's a brilliant, brilliant state.
For my last little contribution before I bugger off,
Yeah.
I've got a sort of explanation as to why that is, and it came about. Might have talked about it before. I can't remember on here, but it came about a few years ago, about 4 years ago, I think. I don't know if you know a brain specialist called Sophie Scott, Professor Sophie Scott. She was studying comedy and brain function, like why we laugh and what happens. And she was moving into the area of music, like, you know, the great questions about like how does music work, how does it enter our brain, what does it do? And she wanted to do a presentation in Cannes for it. And so she contacted me and said, would you be up for coming into this study, sitting in an MRI machine for 90 minutes with an experimentation on music, about composition, about listening to music, writing music, and then collaborating on a presentation as to what it is. So like advertising agency, looking for ways of making music more effective in an advertising world. But in order to do that, you have to understand what it's doing to your brain. So we had this 90 minutes in an MRI machine. It was astonishing. I'd given them a list of 100 songs that I really liked. They had come up with a list of 100 songs that they thought I would really hate based on the ones that I liked. And they play me these songs. I'm all wired up and everything. Play me the songs and record how my brain responded to each and either. The next stage with this was that they would project a word onto a screen at the top of the MRI machine. And when this word was read, they said, don't think about anything. When the word was green, or another word that was green, like if it came up and it was mountain, and it was in green, they said, in your mind, compose music. Just based on that word. So what did it make you think? Mountain, musically. Think of mountain musically. And so on and so forth. You know, there were a few different words. Anyway, the result was really interesting because they said in the process of listening to music, every part of your brain is engaged. Every part is alight with activity. If you listen to music that you like, it will affect your blood pressure, it will affect your heart rate, the amount of sweat that's coming out of your hand. Everything is stimulated by music. And it's something that nothing else does. But when you are composing, every part of your brain is engaged in that process, apart from memory. So when you come up with a piece of music that you think, where did that come from? It's because you've created it and you can't remember it. The only reason when you hear music, you think, oh, that sounds familiar, is because you have heard it before. But when it's, you know, when you are composing, memory isn't engaged. in the process. So that thing like that Keith Richards says, like, I'm just I've got my aerials out and it just comes, and it's because you can't remember. It's nothing that you're remembering, which is why it feels new, because you can't remember it, because the memory part of your brain isn't engaged in that process. Anyway, there's lots of little stories about that, but anyway, it's fascinating the way that your brain deals with sound and what it does. Like a jingle, a hook. If I sing ba da ba ba ba, what do you think of?
McDonald's.
Yeah, McDonald's. Yeah.
Now, it doesn't make you think of a song. It doesn't make you think of music. It makes you think of McDonald's. It's like an audio identifier, because music that is short doesn't go into the parts of your brain that thinks of it as music. It thinks of it as language. It goes into the part of your brain that means something with words. It's a language. It's an identifier for something else. If that jingle, if it went on longer, your brain would go like, oh, hold on, this is music, and it parks it over there in a different place. But anyway, it's all fascinating stuff. We're going to be seeing much more audio identifiers of things, like credit cards, for instance. If you use a credit card, it will very subtly play something when you use it. At the moment, it's just going beep, but it's like before long, it will be doing something which says da 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 da. So in your advertising, you're going to hear this tune rather than see the logo. They're changing logos on credit cards because people are looking at things on telephones now. Like the Visa one used to have the word Visa written across it. Now it doesn't. It's got those two circles because you can make the circles bigger in the same amount of space you've got on a page on a phone. You see more if you don't have the word Visa, because the Visa's tiny, but bigger circles lose the word, and now you think of that as Visa. So already that's a video identifier, visually identifying something, which an audio identifier could do as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, now I do have to go, but that was my last half penneth.
A fascinating two penneth. David, thank you so much for
joining us. Yeah, it's good to have you.
Lovely to speak to you again.
Great to have you on.
I won't get that standee in the post, Kent. We're going to have to figure something out, but I'll let you know.
All right, mate. I can't believe that 80 is still working all right.
It is still working.
It's still tuned.
It's still tuned, yeah. It's like, it's
How many years ago did I do that?
I don't know, 6.
Brilliant.
Maybe.
I'd hang on to that one. That's a
He's good, isn't it? He's good.
Isn't it? Yeah.
All righty. I'll see you soon.
Super glue the pots in place.
Thank you, David.
See you later.
Bye,
mate.
Bye.
Thanks for the advice.
That was gold. That was gold from a maestro.
It's made me think differently about composing.
What are we going to do about it?
Well,
now we can now shame each other into doing something.
We can.
No one shamed me so far.
And
Ken, how far have you got?
Got an idea for a song.
Well, that's good.
Sorry, not a song, a piece.
Yeah, a piece.
Okay. Well, gentlemen, I mean, that was a fascinating hour with David. It's given us much to think about. But you know what we haven't done yet? We haven't covered any of the news.
Oh.
Do we care?
Not really.
Go on,
get on with it.
Come on in.
We do.
We need a jingle.
We've got a few, so we can whiz through these. So the very first thing we have up, I do believe, is, let's just have a look. Have we got this ready to go? I've got to do something down here. Share screen.
Squeeze me.
And is it Harmonia? Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So this was announced. Here we go. Let's just add this to the stream. So Harmonia. So Cherry Audio, our lovely friends at Cherry Audio, when we had them on the show a few weeks back, they were talking then about the engineer who'd been doing all of the coding had come up with an instrument that he particularly wanted to design, and they wouldn't tell us anything about it at the time, but this is it. And it's a rather splendid thing. Should I take that up full screen so we can see a little more? I don't know. There we go. So the idea is it's a series of harmonics. So each oscillator, if I try and, there we go, each oscillator has a series of harmonics that you can add to or take away. Should we give it a quick play and see what we come up with. Let's see what this does. Let's share this tab. Here we go. Whoop.
Harmonia is the latest original virtual instrument from Cherry Audio, designed to easily create rich, evolving polyphonic tones through its intuitive interface. Harmonia's magic lies in its 2 sample-based oscillators that simultaneously produce up to 8 pitches, each individually tuned to harmonic series or semitone pitches. The volume of each harmonic can be fixed or modulated, and Harmonia's unique interpolated harmonic scanning enables dramatic sweeps and melodic sequences via a single slider. Harmonia derives its distinctive organic sound from hundreds of sampled waveforms recorded from various sources, and user samples further expand Harmonia's tonal palette. Producers can effortlessly create extraordinary morphing and sequencer-like permutations simply by varying the waveform selection and harmonic presets. Harmonia reaches new heights with 4 syncable LFOs, an expansive multi-mode filter, click and drag envelopes, and a massive 8-slot mod matrix with dozens of sources and destinations. Express yourself with Aftertouch, automate with simple MIDI mapping, and find inspiration in over 350 breathtaking presets. Harmonia also includes studio quality effects such as distortion, chorus, phaser, echoes, reverbs, and more, all fully modulatable through the matrix.
So let's just stop that now.
Okay.
So there we go, where we have it. We have the Cherry Audio Harmonia. It's essentially a harmonic series in each oscillator, which you can modulate through, add to, or pull back. You can use your own samples. At $49. I have to say there's a better overview video, which is longer, but not knowing whether or not we'd get a strike on that or not, I thought we'd just come back. Have you seen any of this? Have you any thoughts about this, young Kent?
No, I haven't actually heard this thing yet. Well, until now. I'm not sure where I would use this. It might have a spot, but like I say, at $49, you go, yeah, get it in the arsenal and think about it later. I don't know.
What about you, young Andrew?
I saw that video. I've not seen a longer one. I saw the sort of intro video. Kent, we were talking about sort of additive stuff yesterday, weren't we? And I've always been, it's always sort of left me a little bit cold because it always sounds a bit nasally. It brings out these funny. But that was different because using sample waveforms and then picking out the harmonics which are within them, actually really quite intriguing. So yeah, and it sounded very bombastic, that, didn't it? I was wanting to hear something a bit more subtle and delicate, what the harmonic changes would be, because it was all sort of a bit
on their website. Let's just have another quick butch at this.
You probably can do it, Andy.
I'm sure it can, yeah.
Just for the sake of the advert, they want to smack people in the face.
Ear catching, yeah.
So it does have enormous flexibility. I think what's really interesting is you're not just stuck with the sampled sounds they have. You can play around with those, add your own in, and each one of those harmonic cycles, that's a mathematical series. So 2 is 200% of the pitch of the first one, 3 is 300%, so the fifth or third or whatever it is, fifth, and then 400%, and so on and so forth. And you can change those pitches, and you can play around with those to get enharmonic and modulate them, and you can sweep through them. So you have, think of it like almost like a filter. Before you've even applied a filter, you can go through this harmonic series and change how the thing's sounding. So it does look quite interesting. I've yet to download it and play with it myself, but I'm very, very interested. And that they've not knowingly released a Duff plugin yet, have they?
I don't really know. No. So, like I say, they're normally quite, so cheap that you don't need to
And
double take on.
Ken Flux has just mentioned it has a sample importability, so you can put your own in.
Yeah,
Mess with those too. That's an interesting side of it.
yeah.
Exactly that. I've not seen. I mean, I haven't worked out yet whether or not you can bring in one sample and then you create the harmonics, because it does. They've got a whole interpolation engine behind it that allows you to sweep through the different harmonics. So I'm wondering whether or not the harmonics are actually just repitched samples, and they're interpolated to give you the different pitches, but they're laid out as a harmonic series, and as you blend them together, you end up with these richer or not richer sounds. That's before you even get onto the onto the filtering and envelope shaping, modulation, etc. So it looks interesting.
That's the point. Yeah. Does it support MPE?
I believe it does. So I think they've got a series of
There you are,
MPE
Steve.
presets. Yeah, I believe it does. There we go. Just having a quick look. I seem to read that it did, but we'll have to check that. If anyone,
Steve Elbows and Wagyu are saying no MPE support.
no MPE support.
But does it support poly aftertouch? So you can play it from your Hydrasynth.
Indeed.
I thought it did, but I'll tell you what, we'll get some. We'll doubtless update you on that once we've had. Unfortunately, I'm not Robbie, so I don't have the things to hand. So, Robbie, come back. Where are you in French France?
People are at liberty to do their own research.
It does apparently, Steve Elbows. It does support poly aftertouch.
Good.
So that's a good thing.
Right there.
Because my main controller keyboard is my Hydrasynth Deluxe. So good.
That's a good thing. So you can sweep through the harmonic series on each key differently. So that gives you a polyphonic. That's actually really quite cool. That really is quite cool. So Cherry Audio Harmonia, the $49 I think is the price. Go and have a look. Download the demo and buy it if you like. They're lovely people at Cherry Audio, and I can't think you're going to regret buying it. I can't think you will. So there we go. What else do we have whilst we're talking of such things? Should we get onto some hardware, or should we carry on with the? Let's just have a look. So yeah, let's stick.
Synth Network. Cool,
Let's stick with. No, let's move on to some hardware. So this is one which is kind of cool. Bear with me. So some time ago, where are we? Here we go. Some time ago, a chap called Joe Britt in Southern California decided that what he most wanted to do in the world was to do his own version of an LM1. Here we go. And this little beauty, let's just boost up the size a bit. This little beauty is an updated LM1. He got in touch with, he found out that that Roger lived just round the corner from him, and he got in touch with him, and Roger is singing its praises and has been extraordinarily helpful. This is getting very close to release now. You can reprogram, you can use different sound sets in it, different ROMs. I think you can dump sounds into it, unless I'm entirely wrong on that. But essentially it's the LM1 with the original LM1 sounds. Would you like to have a quick listen?
Absolutely.
Oh, yes, please.
Righty-ho, let's just do this from the beginning.
I figured out a way to speed up the load time for the voice boards by using a special mode of the I2C chip that I use to push the sample data down to the voice boards. So let's turn it on and we'll see how quickly it loads as it boots up. Okay, now all the stock LM1 sounds are loaded. So bass, snare, toms, congas, bassa, tambourine, rimshot, claps, cowbell. We can play a simple sequence. Okay, but now we can load a totally different set of sounds. So the way we do that is we press the store button. That gets the teensy's attention. Now the teensy has taken over the UI, and it's asking for a command. And command 00 means load sounds. And now it wants to know which sounds. So there are different directories of sounds on the SD card, and the directory names are just a 2-digit number. So we're going to load number 3. And now it's loading those from the SD card down into the voice boards. And now they're all loaded. And now we've got a totally different set of sounds. So pretty cool. And we'll play the same sequence. The hi-hat is quite different.
So I think we get the drift. I doubt this will get that link thrown up. I had an LM1 and I loved it. I loved it because it was simple. What this thing does, let me just bring it up as a thingy here so at least we can see the bugger. Is that right? No, it's not. You carry on. What do you think about owning or having an LM1?
I like the LM1. I like the LM1 quite a lot. It's the only other drum machine I really like other than the SR95 and the CR78.
I think
but
one
price
of the issues
will play a huge part.
Well, when Anthony was on just a week or last week or whenever it was, he was showing us the LM2, and when he opened it up, of course, you could change the chips, but you actually physically had to change the ROMs.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Right, each one. With this, you can load lots of new sounds in using the SD card, which makes this a different beast. And also, if you notice up here, these are both pitch and panning things. They light up, so you know what's happening, which is a change from how it used to be. I kind of like this. Would this be something you'd use, Mr. Brooks?
It's a blooming big box.
It is.
So the likelihood is no. But I love the sounds. I love the. I mean, as soon as he started that first rhythm, I was about to start singing. The things that dreams are made of, or the sound of the crowd. It's the sound of Dare, isn't it? Really,
it is
that drum machine, and it was immediately. It was oh yeah, and Legal Limited Orchestra. What a great album that was. All those sounds, absolutely love it. But would I want to put a great big thing like? I don't think I've got room for it. It's enormous.
But the way it's shaped, it's got that flat surface. I remember using mine. I would have it on top and then put all sorts of things on top. So it gave you it was built like a tank.
Oh, aye, look at it. It's a piece of furniture, isn't it?
It is. Ken, have you had any of these come through?
Oh God, yes. Loads of them.
Oh,
absolutely, buckets of them come through.
And
yeah, they suffer from gunked up sliders, LEDs winking out, all sorts of things like that. People bending legs on the proms, all that sort of stuff. So, oh, my bass drum doesn't work anymore. Yeah, because you bent the legs. It's
Of the
supposed to go
drummer?
in the elbows, mate. Yeah. So, with this, it all comes down to how much it's going to hit the shelves at.
Well,
Really
shall we
don't.
have a look? Let's have a look.
Looks like it's going to be pricey to me.
It doesn't have a price at the moment. It
Yeah,
doesn't have a price at the moment, but
yeah. I know that
Yeah.
original LM1s are going for stupid money.
Yeah, lots of money. Yeah,
Yeah,
they're not
but that
cheap.
doesn't mean that this should be very expensive because the originals are very expensive. Anything ideally should be more keenly priced. Because it's one of those things where, you know, you go, oh yeah, do you know what? I loved my old LM1. Yeah, I'd like to get another one again, you know, because a lot of it will be driven by nostalgia and stuff like that. And so if the price isn't right, if it go, yeah, but I don't miss it that much.
Why is this not a clone? Is it because it's got Roger Linn's name on it and he approves?
I don't know, but clearly Roger has backed this and has given it his blessing, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
And I love that.
4,995.
No,
much?
surely not.
It's got in chat there.
£5,000.
5K.
No.
How much is a second
No.
hand? How much is a used one going for now?
About that.
About
Less
that.
than that. Yeah, no, less. It will.
Depends on the condition, obviously. No, that needed to be sub 2K to, mind you, if it's a limited run, then fine, he'll get that. That's not a problem. So,
I mean, that's also true. But, yeah.
yeah.
I mean, even being able to put your own sounds in it and loading them in, it's still a big box that's limited. Only you can put your own sounds into a TR8S. So...
yeah, but that's why this is a nostalgia thing as well, because
it's got to be, hasn't it?
the electronics is available to make that thing literally fit into the palm of your hand.
Of course.
With the same functions.
Yeah.
You know, you can just have a touch screen.
The physicality is definitely part of it, and the fact that it's built into a coffin, and you know,
Is it disappointing that the buttons, that the drum pads themselves aren't velocity sensitive?
They're not on the
well,
original.
It's in keeping to its original. So this is kind of a homage more than a an actual product that's designed for people to use in anger in any great number. So this is a collector's item run.
It is, isn't it?
With a price tag to suit. I'll wait for Behringer to bring out one.
Well, they are planning to, aren't they? They're planning to bring out the Linn drum.
Well, there you go.
LM2.
People will grumble and moan.
Yeah.
Was it the LM2 they're bringing out? Sorry.
I think so. I don't think it's this. I think it's the LM2 because it was so. Unless there's some. I don't know
half the size.
Yeah, I don't know what the story is with.
And people
half the size, still the same weight.
And people will whinge and moan when they do.
Yeah, I'll be one of them.
Of course.
and then go out and buy one.
Yeah.
And talking of such things, whilst we're talking of the naughty
naughty B word,
the naughty B word, let us just run this little beauty up instead. Are we ready?
You've got to love the French. Famous for their fine wines, their gourmet food, the world's smelliest cheeses, and that big hunk of metal that everybody recognises. The Mini Moog?
Well, almost, but not quite. Certainly known for their vintage wines, their vintage synths, maybe not so much, but this one is an absolute gem. Dubbed the French Mini Moog of the 70s, it's the Cobalt Expander. Let's go!
And that's enough Behringer. So
No, it's not.
thoughts, Andrew, go on, tell me.
Bloody genius. We were talking about this yesterday, Kent, weren't we? I think this is an absolute massive, huge thumbs up. There are next to none of them around in the real world. The keyboard version, there was only 35 of them made, and the module, I think about 800 of the module. You can't get them, and they are so expensive. And that's the sort of thing, if you're going to clone something like that, that's unavailable, that gives people an essence of it, and just looking at it, every parameter is modulatable via CV. So I'm going, oh yes, I think it's an absolutely brilliant thing, and I want one. I'll say it straight out the bat, I want it. And I'm looking forward to getting my hands on one.
Kent.
Yes,
I can
good.
Take a breath.
Good, because the Cobalt was it was a lovely machine. I've had two keyboard versions in, and honest to God, you wouldn't want the original. You just wouldn't want the original. You open it up, and inside you can just get the essence of the French people that built it, just going fucky daddle do, and walk away. I'm going to drink wine and cheese now. Piss off, you English person. And they fall apart. Wires dropping out of them, all sorts of stuff. They were awfully built inside. Beautiful sounding machine, absolutely stunning sounding machine.
I remember using one. I remember using one, the RSF Cobalt. I remember using one and just being astonished at how good it sounded.
Yeah, but unfortunately, the inside. It's going.
So we think it's a good thing. I can't remember how much it's going for. It didn't say.
Well, it's Behringer. It'll probably be 4p.
Well,
4p.
It'll be around the 300 quid mark, I reckon.
Wrapped in newspaper with your chips.
Like their other, it's the same size as the Pro One module that they do, and the Neutron K2. It's that size that they do these two module sizes.
So price?
Yeah. Kent's 179.
179.
179. Is that? Do you know that? Wagyu says much less. If it's 179, it's a no-brainer. 199. Absolutely.
Still a no-brainer.
Get my name on the list.
That is a no-brainer, isn't it? Really?
It can go in there. It just go in there.
Yeah, no, it's got a fantastic creamy filter on it. It really is. We're talking about a really, really lovely sounding synth, and even Behringer couldn't make it as bad as the original ones. Inside, even if they tried, they could not make it as crap inside as the original one.
There's a
No, honest to God, you could sneeze and then you could hear components falling off the boards inside.
Yeah, it's funny because we were saying, Kent, that on Saturday when we met and we were talking, I was saying, I'm not sure whether I'm going to be buying any more Behringer stuff, and then this is announced, and I'm going, oh, and suddenly, you go, right, actually, this is a want. I can't pretend, and you can call me all the names under the sun.
Well, I'm waiting for them to do the RMI.
Yeah.
The RMI keyboard computer.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they do the RMI synthesizer, I'll actually
buy the company.
Yeah. I was so impressed I bought the company.
Wow.
Yeah.
So talking of new things on the block, which we were talking about all things on the block, but it's been bought out as fresh and new by the B company. I think it's probably, I tend to agree, I think it's a good thing, but I wonder if the original owners are getting anything from it, but we'll see. So in the meanwhile, there's been a lot of talk, hasn't there, of late, about that instrument to just adjacent to you, Mr. Spong.
But wasn't that?
Yeah. The what's it? The 84. I can think about that.
84.
You've got a cat in the van.
What have you got a cat in the van for?
CS80.
Yeah.
Well.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay.
It's just.
So we know that Yamaha.
CS84 then.
Yamaha have canned the Montage, and they said the Montage is dead. Long live the Montage. They're planning to release a new version of the Montage in October, and we finally got some sneak pictures. Would you like to have a look?
Go on.
You would, wouldn't you? I know you would, because you like that. Here we go.
If it doesn't flash its knob, it's not a montage.
Well,
It's funny you should say that.
there we go. That is looking... It's looking different, slightly different to how it used to. You'll notice at the top here, above the sliders that were used before for articulation, all sorts of other things, there's a new LCD or LED display, LCD, OLED, don't know.
Yeah.
They've been moving stuff around quite a lot. The cursor keys went around here because they figure you can do it all with the touchscreen, I guess, but also I've noticed that these 4 segments on the rotary dial look like they're going to be the cursors if you need them. My question is, because we don't know yet, do we? Look at that. It's not a bad looking thing. What we don't know is, are they going to be using physical modelling? Are they actually going to get into that? And are we going to end up at some point with a CS80 in a box? Kent?
No. No, I don't. I think you're looking at a standard keyboard there, my friends.
So you don't think they're going to go for poly aftertouch on the
No.
end?
I don't think so. No.
I mean, it's all speculation. There we go. At the moment, we've only seen the MX8. The other 2 models drop the X from the name. It would appear from the images that the Montage is quite a redesign, it says. Yeah, so it's noting the Tony Q FX art panel has got a new LED or LCD display above it, but we don't know what it does. So at the moment we've got some pictures but very little else. We've got no idea what it's going to do. So yeah, are we holding our breath for October when the new thing is released, and do we think they're ever going to actually get around to giving us a physically modelled or otherwise CS80 re-release?
I wouldn't like to speculate, to be honest. I wouldn't like to speculate. I mean, there's something must be going on in there, because yes, all right, you can rearrange controls on the front panel, but it's like rearranging furniture in your front room. It's still a front room and it's still got the same stuff in it. So there's got to be something else going on. New engine, new updates, all sorts of little bits and bobs. But will it be poly AT? No, I don't think so. It might have an MPE support, coming in, but not going out, I don't think. Because Yamaha have traditionally had a history of, they're the sort of people where when everybody shouts, for something, then Yamaha won't deliver. So it's that classic thing of like, wow, look at that Meteor, and Yamaha goes like that. So, and that's kind of what happens when the more people scream for something from Yamaha, the less likely you are going to get it. So
That's a shame. It would be a lost opportunity, wouldn't it?
Like I say, it may receive MPE and channel pressure and all sorts of bits and bobs coming in, but as in terms of playable going out, no. It's money that Yamaha don't want to spend, to be honest, because they have nothing to prove today. In 1976, they had a lot to prove, and made a name for themselves in the synthesizer market with this girl. They don't have to do that anymore. They're not bothered. They want player keyboards that you can take to pubs and clubs. That's their big market anyway. Performance machines.
I'll be very interested to see what kind of pricing they're going to come out with on these. Is it going to be similar to the current models, do you think?
It'll be pricey. Will not be LM1 pricey though. What do you reckon about $3.5 grand for the 88?
3.5 to 4.
Possibly more.
If it's more, then it better have poly aftertouch. Otherwise, it's gonna, people are moving away from workstations and they just want controllers they can use for live or in the studio. And that.
How many people actually use those things as workstations anyway?
I've no idea.
In that sense, as in, I mean, actually, that's not fair, because I know of at least one person who uses a Modi X. who uses the sequencer and the sounds and takes it to EMOMs. Hi, Simon. So people do actually, but I would have thought that the target, like you said, is player keyboards, and it's much more to do with the performance aspects of it.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just being naive.
I think maybe a lot of the drive behind this might be that they're trying to cut into that Roland's market, because that
the Phantoms.
Roland, the Phantom X that Richard Hilton used.
Richard's using
it's
it.
Stunning, the sounds that he can produce because of the plug outs. We can, load all the cloud sounds into it and stuff like that. So maybe they're lining up something for this.
Yeah.
So like, get all those, remember all those little refaces and stuff like that. And you get sort of like sounds that you can download onto it. All that sort of thing.
That would seem
or engines rather.
So it would be going up against the Phantom and or the Kronos, right?
Well,
yeah. That's what they display. They've got a display above the dials and sliders.
Yeah.
That might be because when you are loading different instruments, you have to update what those dials and sliders do. Hence, have a display there rather than a graphic saying, knob 1, knob 2. Actually have a physical indication of what each thing does with the new engine that's been loaded in, akin to the Complete Control Mark II, where they had the displays to show what instruments you were actually using.
Yeah, and you also just mentioned things like you said the Kronos. I mean, I mentioned Simon Greatbatch, but Neil Wharton in the chat. He's a massive Kronos fan, and we were talking in the car on the way back from yours on Saturday, Kent, about these things. The Korg has the Nautilus, but it's not quite a Kronos 2. And Neil was saying if they bring out a Kronos 2, as in a brand new version, would it be Kronos 3 by this stage? I can't remember. It would definitely be in for that. And yes, I know he uses it as a workstation. It's an all-in-one thing. So my original comment was, do people use this as workstations, was obviously ridiculous. So because they do. So.
It's Mac.
Oh, your mic's gone again, Andrew.
Yeah, you can't say Mac to that microphone.
Manny. Is it Manny in the chat?
Manny is in the chat,
yeah.
Tell us, go on, Manny. Tell us.
He's not going to tell you.
Under NDA.
Go on, tell us.
He values his life.
Go on, tell us. Pull a couple of extra teeth and do without the NDA. Go on.
Can't say anything. He'll have the Yamaha black suits at the door. The Yakuza.
So we're speculating and waiting to see what will come of this, and
pretty much.
Then, of course, gentlemen, we've been talking a lot about some hardware. I think it's back to software for a moment. What do you think?
Yeah, why not? It's more comfortable.
Shall we have a little look at this little beauty? Shall we go full screen on this? Yeah, let's. Here we go.
Howdy doody. My name is Cameron, better known as Venus Theory. This is the official UVI YouTube channel, and if you are wondering why I am so sweaty and hot and bothered, it's not because it's a balmy 107 degrees here in central Tennessee. No. It's because today we're going to be checking out the new Synth Anthology 4 from UVI.
I'm fascinated and riveted.
I'm bothered.
I'm hot and bothered by this.
He lost me at Howdy Doody.
Yeah, he did me as well. What I'll do is I will skim through.
Go on.
It is a
Synth Anthology 4 is a ground-up reimagining of UVI's flagship synth collection and features 4,000 layers from 200 different synthesizers spanning decades of classic and modern sounds. With a freshly redesigned UI, Synth Anthology 4 makes exploring the thousands of sources and nearly unlimited possibilities faster than ever to find your next sound. I think it goes without saying that because of how huge this collection is, we won't be exploring everything in this video, but as usual, I did just want to take you on a quick tour of how to use it and share some of my favorite sounds. So to get started, here on the main panel, we have our two sound sources, and Synth Anthology 4 is based around this bitimbral setup, but of course, if you want to disable a layer, you can use the power button at any time to disable one of the layers. We also have this crossfade knob here in the center to blend between the two, and an LFO below that if you want to get a little bit of motion going between
So
the
shall
two
we hear
sound
some-
sources.
shall we
Browsing
hear
the sounds
some-
in Synth Anthology 4 works in
some
two different
sounds?
ways. We can browse through the
Yes,
main
let's.
sound menu.
Let's do that, because we could spend an age going through this. It reminds me already, by the way, of what's the... Oh, Jesus. Omnisphere?
Oh,
Same.
yes.
A few
Yeah,
of my favorite
same kind of
sounds
thing,
from
yeah.
this soundware.
So we're a bit short on time, so I'm just going to stop sharing that. Thoughts, gentlemen, of this new release from UVI?
It's a nice instrument, and treat it as such. But when you see on the screen, say, a Prophet 5 and then a Synthi A, and then you compare the chord between the two, and there is no difference, it tells you everything you need to know. So just forget about what kind of vintage synth it's trying to do, because it's not doing that. But what it can do is it can make lots of nice synthesizer sounds. But just ignore that whole vintage synth part of it.
Andrew?
Well, I thought the sounds he was playing were lush. I saw this pop up in my YouTube feed, but I didn't have a look at it because I was just it wasn't immediately something that caught my attention, it being a soft synth. So, but it sounds great, you know. So, watch this space. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I can see, there's a lot of soft synths in the same space doing similar things, and you know, I'm sure, you know, UVI have a decent name for some of the stuff. I'm not sure I get the interface.
It's basically sample based, isn't it? It's just a big sample collection, isn't it?
It's a sample collection, and I'm not sure I'm hearing anything here I don't already have in a number of other plugins and or whatevers that I've got. I'm not sure I'm that excited about this. It's their new way of doing it. They're not introducing any new instruments. It's a new interface for mixing between them. And
what sort of pennyage are we talking?
Well, that's what I'm looking at. €89.
Yeah, it's not too bad, is it?
So it's not a bad thing for essentially. I would imagine it is cut down access to each of the plugins, so you get what you're given. You can play around with them and modulate and do whatever. But you're not getting all the instruments. What you're getting is instrument, samples or a limited set that sit within this, reside within this. It sounds nice, but I'm not hearing
sounded
anything.
all right.
I'm not hearing anything new. I was expecting it to be slightly more than this. Yeah. A buy or a not?
Not yet.
Kent?
No, probably not yet. No.
resounding. Is that so? What are people saying in the chat? Can be blended with Oberheim Vor voice for comparison? No, I don't know. No one seems hugely. Yeah, no one seems hugely driven to buy it. It's a huge sample library. That's it.
Well, if it had that, like Steve Elbows is saying about, it's got MPE, unlike most sample-based things. So there's a plus, definitely, as far as I'm concerned, for it.
That is a plus. I mean, and maybe that's going to be driving some of the.
Yeah, because the bottom line is I've spent a shitload of money on stuff that's able to do MPE, and I want more sounds and instruments to play using said facility. So that's a plus for me then.
That's a plus. Okay. Well, that
21
that
gig of
seems
samples.
that seems to be, yeah, you know, it's a nice enough thing, but I'm not hearing anything that makes me want to jump up and rush out and grab it as opposed to anything else. I've got Omnisphere 1 and 2, you know, I've got libraries that already do everything this is doing plus some. So yeah, I'm, you know, €89 though. It's not the biggest price in the world, is it?
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not a bank breaker really. Even in you know, compared with other things like LM1s.
So, other news. This is something which Kent and I have been have some experience of. So let me just do this. We are running low on time, so I'm going to try and do this really quickly. Which is, we have what do we need here? Not Andrew. Is this me? No, I want to share this tab. There we go. Bang. Not remove. Add to stream. There we go. So here we go. Focus on the 4th generation audio interface. I've had a 2 and a 3. Both of them have been a real I mean, I used to love Focusrite stuff. I loved the Liquid Sapphire. It was a really, really good piece of kit. These sound amazing when they work, but I keep on running into issues such as you've been hearing tonight, where the thing just cuts out for reasons that are completely beyond me. And I know I've got the 414 here, and I've got the 1820 in the studio, all generation 3, and the 4 comes out. It looks nice enough. It's doing some, you know, lovely things, I guess. But Kent, what's your feeling about this? Would you pack in the 1820 you've got and go for a Gen 4 version of it?
Depends on what they're going to offer me. I want
children back.
Yeah, I want a bucket load more inputs.
Yeah, so you like me. I mean, I would use the 414 here, but for everywhere else, I want the 1820. I want a lot of input and output, a lot of I/O, and I have to say the 1820 has been much more stable and reliable than the 414 for some reason. I don't understand why.
Maybe just load the firmware again, buds.
Maybe it is. Maybe it is. We keep on getting into
No,
that.
I'd like them to do a stonking big one.
I beg your pardon?
Yeah, I want them to do one with like 32 inputs.
No, so that's not it. So that's what. How much is this going to be? Let's see if we can find out what the cost is going to be. It's got auto. One of the things which is good, it does have auto gain on it. So you set the level and it automatically takes care of that. It's not using a limiter. It's just adjusting. I think it's adjusting the volume, the input volume, the gain, 60 something thousand times or 6,400 times a second, something like that. So you know it should be able to catch most things. I'm not seeing. Oh, there we go. 225, 271 for the 2i2. Neither of which are big enough for me. Image sources, there we go. 414. So I guess they're going to be around about the £200-300 mark, something like that. Yes.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. I can't hear a huge amount of boring, pathetic little interfaces. I think it's time to close that out now because I don't think anyone wants to. I mean, you know, it's a nice enough thing. The sound
a bit
of
harsh.
The sound.
Oh, your mic's gone again, Andrew.
Yeah, your Focusrite has just cracked out on you again.
Oops.
And that's what I mean.
During the Focus.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. Let's just try this instead. It does have some
Focusrite. Go to audience. Their interfaces look amazing.
Yeah,
that's what I'm going to be getting.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good. So we're gonna get rid of that. And
It was almost like that sketch, wasn't it, with the news reporter where he's going, and it was here that the car hit the news reporter. What? Bang.
So we've almost done the show. There's just one other piece of news to share, which is, I'm sure there's lots more, but Superbooth 24. Tickets now on sale. Dates announced. Who's going?
Take a wild guess.
Not Kent, but I think Robbie and Ben are looking to book their tickets already. I think quite a few others are. I'd very much like to make it along if I can, but then who'd run the show?
Perhaps I'll have to, for once, have a week off. I would like
Siri.
to go for the Saturday. Yeah, get Siri to do it. She'll be all over it.
Siri and Noah can do it.
She would lick noses with everybody.
Yeah, she did.
She
Yeah,
would. And
I said after the
pricing-
last one that I would go to the next one, so I'm going to have to try and work out how on earth I'm going to do it. So perhaps booking a ticket first is the good thing to do. Then
And
book a
it's
flight, and then we'll go, oh God.
€29
Throwing down
for a one-day
gauntlets again there,
pass.
Andy?
What's that, sorry, Kent?
Are you throwing down gauntlets again in public?
Well, no, it depends on money, really. It really does. Well, you know, there's at least time to do some saving up for stuff. So
Yeah.
And €79 for a 3-day pass, €29 for a single day. It's, you know, it's definitely one not to miss if you can. I'm going to definitely try and get out to it if I can, and if I'm not stuck here. Oh, look at that! Can't sync something. There we go. So yes, Super Booth. Have we had any news about who's appearing? What's going to be there? Are we expecting anything
probably not
wonderful
yet.
and marvelous?
Probably not yet. No.
What would you like to see there? Apart from Dina and Michelle, of course.
And a fully working anaglyph would be nice.
you've got time, Kent. You've got time.
Yeah, no, I
can
want somebody to build it for me. That's the thing.
We can crowdfund it. Just
I
a
want,
bit.
I want Behringer to steal the plans and make one.
Lady Aptitude has just come back. Let's just show this.
Mm.
Oh no, I just got the wrong one. Sorry about that.
Well done.
Lady Aptitude. Let's show this. Synth Anthology 3 covers 132. Synth Anth 4 is 200 synths, so it's more than just a new interface. So yeah, that is rather more than I thought. But you don't have full control of each synth, do you? I don't know. Perhaps someone else can tell us. So you just have whatever patches they've put in, and you have limited control over those. So you're not able to program each of the 400 synths as you would. Yeah, but then for €89, why would you? You know. So there's that. Let's just have a look. Groove Synthesis. Steve Elbows tells us that Groove Synthesis will have, or want to have, their new synth at Super Booth if it can get it developed in time. Now, what are they working on? Ooh.
Okay.
After
Smaller,
Third
cheaper
Wave,
version of the third wave.
anything they bring out, I'm really interested in.
Yeah, I think all of us
Really,
are.
really interested in. And well, I guess, gents, I mean, you know, so we're kind of, I know I've royally stuffed this up in all sorts of ways, but
Bollocks. No, you've not.
Guess what? We've reached the end of the show.
Have you seen one of my pubs?
Yeah. Have you heard me swear in them?
Yeah.
So we've kind of reached the end of the show. It's been interesting. We had David in, who was just brilliant, giving loads and loads of really sound advice to aspiring composers, and I think he's got us all thinking about doing something. So we need to set a date for when your compositions will they be ready for the Christmas show, do you think, gents?
Well, that's as good a time as any, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. We're going to have to push each other.
And then how do we do it? Well, will it be in a video, or is it audio format, or?
I'll
Yeah,
think
okay.
about that closer to the time, mate.
Let's worry about that later.
Get
Yes,
writing, lads. Get writing.
Oh,
You're
there's
going
a
to have to
gauntlet
run it on
thrown down.
whatever DAW or otherwise you're going to use to record it on.
Oh, there you go again, Andrew. There you go again.
There we go. I've got a what is it? I've got an EMU orchestral module, which is just out there wonderful. It's really good. It's hardware, which I might try and get up to you so you can have a play with that.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
It's a really good thing. So we're now drawing very close to the end. So I guess what we need to do now is find out what we're all planning for the weekend. So Kenty, are you having a pub? What are you up to this weekend?
I will probably have a pub tomorrow night, but I have to calibrate a CS80, fix 2 voice cards on an OBX, and then calibrate it, and finish cleaning the alley at the back of the garden.
With the CS80 or the OBX? Oh, God.
Oh, I tell you what, mate, you've never seen so much mud, leaves, and moss. And, God.
Inside of the CS80, I know they can do that sometimes.
And stinging
They
that was
can do
as
that.
cool as me.
And
It's
are you doing
unbelievable out there.
Are you doing
Yeah, I'll do a
night?
pub. Yeah, I'll do a pub tomorrow night. Yeah,
I'll
absolutely.
probably be joining you. Will you be joining in as well, Andrew? What are your plans for the weekend, Andy?
Ramsey tomorrow afternoon. And other than that, hoovering.
Hoover. You just lead the most exotic and ridiculously exciting life.
My Hoover's crap, so I have to borrow a decent Hoover. So I will be tomorrow morning. I'll have me.
You should have borrowed our Roomba.
Yeah. Oh, that is a thing. Oh, I've never seen one of those before, but that was. God, look at that! There's a flying saucer whizzing around, cleaning everything. Amazing.
Yeah, every day it's needed. Trust me, it's bloody.
Oh yes.
Oh
yeah.
gosh. Well, listen, I'm going to be video editing because I need to do a show reel for some podcasts I'm doing. Well, I hope to do an awful lot better. And we're getting some. We're doing the mill purchase still thing. We've got documentation for that. We're moving forward. We've had some more nice news on that. I'll update you all, no doubt, at some point. But in the meantime, I think, gentlemen, that actually we've just had a show.
Did it?
What do you think?
Yeah.
Well done. Thank you for asking me on.
Yeah, I think we got to 9 o'clock without any serious
Swear
injury.
words.
Yeah.
Fuck, did we?
Yeah.
Oh, Andrew.
And he falls at the line.
At the line.
The last hurdle.
What
It's
a-
the highest
post.
one.
Yeah, what a plonker. Well, in which case, listen, I wish everyone watching, thank you to everyone that's been watching today. Thank you for putting up with me. And I hope you enjoyed the wonderful Andrew Brooks, who's promised to do something that he now rather wishes he hadn't. I'm glad he has.
Clearly.
Don't do that noise, Andy.
No, I know. I keep doing that. I get into trouble, won't I?
Yeah, don't do that one.
Thank you for Kent for being the
Lord.
stabilising hand on the tiller at points where I just lost it
The
completely.
helmsman. The helmsman.
And thank you very much indeed to Mr. Arnold for sage
yes,
wonderful
thank you, Mr. Arnold,
advice.
for
Yes.
forcing me and Kent into.
Erudite as never. Yeah.
He needs to get some gear in that studio though, doesn't he? Hey?
I mean,
And
it's over in the air.
he-
Come on, man.
And I think
If you
on
spend
that
your
note-
entire day in front of all that stuff, when you go home at night, you probably go, "Oh, thank God, nothing. Brilliant."
Yeah.
unlike all of this shite. Right.
I feel sorry for school teachers that have kids, you see, because they have front of kids all day and they go home and they're in front of kids. I don't have to do that. I
That's
can be
with
in front of
holiday,
kids all day. Yeah, that's exactly.
No, I can live with it. You know, I can relate to that. Like got a workshop full of keyboards. I come in and there's like more keyboards everywhere. And I come up here and it's like I'm going to work on keyboards.
Do you think they actually mate and create offspring?
I think polymokes do.
That's where the mini moves come from.
I think that's where mini moogs come from. No, it's multi moogs. Multi moogs come from
Multi moves.
Yeah.
You see, I got it wrong again. Right, here we go. And gentlemen, I think it's time to call this an evening. We've done our share. I'm going to be off and having a glass of something and some food. And thank you very much for joining us, one and all. Thank you for your comments. Do press that like button. Don't forget, like button, share button. I don't know if we've had any more donations. I've not really been keeping an eye. I would imagine. Oh, look at that, Doobs. Mr. Donald Dubé, who may well be joining us tomorrow. Don, thank you very much for watching. I can't see if we've had any other.
No, I don't think so.
I think frightened them off. When I say we, I think if I said I wasn't going to do this again, do you think they'd suddenly start
Chicken
donating?
fivers at you.
Huh? And that Andrew Brooks hasn't donated his normal five. Or what?
Yeah, because there's no button on this because I'm in the stream yet. There's no button on the chat for donate. Yeah.
Oh, thank you all for joining us, and goodbye.
Good night, all.
No.
And Kent, it's down to you to stop the broadcast. Bye, one and all.
Oh. There you go.